I had a chance to spend almost a full week at a camp last summer and was able to sit in on an empowerment activity and to witness children of all different age groups and seeing kids who are 7, 8, 9 years old who are sharing what loss meant to them and what was it like to see a parent go through treatment or ask questions to their peers as they're actively going through it at this moment. And then see those kids step up and walk across the circle and comfort one another and share laughs in that moment.
Welcome to the Inheritance of Hope podcast. Every day, 562 children lose a parent to terminal illness. They shouldn't have to face that alone. You can pretend to avoid the painful realities of illness, grief, and death, or you can deal with the real stuff in caring community. On the podcast, people in Inheritance of Hope's community share raw, personal stories of pain, trials, and the shadow of death, which are also stories of joy in terminal illness. Find more Inheritance of Hope community at inheritanceofhope.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Inheritance of Hope podcast. I'm Ellie, the host, and today we are joined with another longstanding partner of Inheritance of Hope, where we've had just so many people in our community mention Kesem and have just found so much value in it. So we are excited to have Derek join us to share more of the details so that even more of you can learn about this organization and what they do. So, Derek, tell us a little bit about what you do and why this all matters.
Yeah. Hi, Ellie. Hi, everyone who's listening. So thankful to be a part of the podcast and just having the chance to share a little bit more about Kesem and our history and all of our wonderful programs. My role with Kesem as Director of Partnerships and Community Engagement is really focused on taking our programs into new communities, more diverse communities, really just connecting with all sorts of organizational partners across the country, whether they be nonprofit organizations or medical centers, oncology support centers, to try to connect with the professionals who are engaging with families directly and in turn hoping to spread more awareness about our program so that when parents are faced with a cancer journey, whether that is a recent diagnosis or they are at any point of survivorship or possibly a caregiver who's engaging with a professional with a parent who's recently passed away, we are being exposed to families so that they know that they can take part in our free camp programs or any of our year-round support programs as well.
What is the mission of Kesem, like the heartbeat of what all goes on, and how was it started?
Yeah, so Kesem supports children through and beyond a parent's cancer diagnosis, and that is at truly any point in the journey. So, like I mentioned, it could have been a recent diagnosis. It may be years beyond that diagnosis, and a parent is just living a life with cancer, or a child may have lost their parent to cancer. And I say parent, but really it could be a primary caregiver as well. So even in households where there's a non-traditional caregiver, a friend, a grandparent, those families would be eligible as well. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary, and this year is actually our 25th year of camp proper. So it was started out in California, actually through Stanford, and Kesem means magic. So the entire mission is centered on creating that magic experience for kids, giving them the space for kids to be kids and really live the joy that sometimes gets suppressed through that diagnosis. So when a family is juggling a million different things and they're trying to figure out what does this look like for our family unit, a parent has a program like Kesem to be able to rely on to not just make sure that there are individuals who are looking out for their child, but to give their child a space where they can actually find and take part in a community of other kids who are living versions of that same shared experience. And they can find community in that and in turn find lifelong friends and individuals that are going to help them just be true to themselves. The thing that I value most about Kesem as a staff member is that we're creating space for kids and for families to just be who they are right? We want people to be truly who they are at every moment of every day. That's in our programs, that's outside of our programs. That's the value of a Kesem name. So my Kesem name is Binks. It's a special name for me. It has some more personal meaning between my wife and I and our connection to cats. We're a cat family, black cat in particular, and two other wonderful cats. But Kesem names are a chance for any individual connected to Kesem to find a way to identify however they want. That could be a superhero name, a random nonsensical name that has no root in reality whatsoever, but just anything that's going to give that child a chance to be who they want to be. And that could be for the week that they're at camp. It could be as part of a day program, or like we said, for 10 plus years continuing on in the Kesem community. So we're really just here to be with a family at any point throughout their journey and create that space for connection.
I didn't know that's what Kesem meant. I was going to ask, I was curious what it meant and how that organization name came about. So I love that it means magic, and it feels similar to a concept we use at Inheritance of Hope called JARO, joy in sorrow, that joy can exist in the midst of grief and hardship. Yeah, they don't compete, they can coexist. The same theory or concept
Yeah.
is true where magic can exist in childhood even if someone you love is sick.
Yeah, not only can it exist, it should exist. It needs to
Mm.
exist. Honestly, that's the charge that we're making, right? Is that it needs to exist, and that not only can we help create more of it, but by bringing kids together and by bringing families together who have been touched by the mission, who have been unfortunately diagnosed with cancer at any point in their life, they're helping to bring that magic to each other, and they're helping to bring it out of one another. I mean, I know we'll talk about some of our programs here today, but the magic of children being in that space where they can help connect with one another and support one another and just reflect and have fun and be true to themselves is such a unique space. And I think that concept of joy coexisting alongside sorrow is so important, because something that I like to say to people as I'm talking about our programs is that cancer is just one piece of the puzzle that brought the community for Kesem together. And it's a huge piece of that puzzle because it's the thing that brings families into the program, but it's far from the only thing that brings us all together, right? It's far from the only thing that connects all the families in our network. And I think that that goes hand in hand with that concept of joy and sorrow playing off of one another. And I just see it as our responsibility to nourish that joy in families and create those environments where they're going to be able to maximize those joyous experiences without turning a blind eye to the thing that brought us all into this space.
You mentioned camps being a primary resource that you offer. Can you walk us through what a child's experience at Camp Kesem actually looks like?
Camp is our flagship program. So a lot of people, if they are familiar with Kesem, they're often familiar with Camp Kesem, which has been around for 25 years now. We're in 41 states, and we serve on average right now just over 10,000 children per year. Within the next 3 years, we should be serving just over 15,000 children per year by the end of 2028, which means that over 10,000 kids who are showing up to camp at various levels of experience. They may be a summer camp kid. They may have years of experience in it. This may be their first time ever going to an overnight camp. But on average, what it looks like for a family and for a child is some version of a drop off where the child is going to integrate into the rest of the camp community. The parents are able to get questions answered and make sure that they have a full understanding of exactly what's taking place. Do tons of question answering in the lead up to programs to make sure that families really feel well versed in the execution of camp and what it looks like. But in case there's additional questions, we always leave space to be able to engage with families there as well. But once a child is checked in, the first few days are going to look like a pretty standard kickoff to camp. You're going to get messaging from the camp directors, which are college student volunteers. So all of our student volunteers across the country, of which there's thousands every single year, helping to plan and execute our programs, will be mentoring and coaching the kids through the first few days, and they are supported by other professional support team members as well. So the early days of camp are also getting familiar with our nurses on hand and our mental health professionals. And they're really there not to be at the forefront of the programs because Kesem is not a grief camp. Kesem is fun and we want to have this be a space where kids can be kids. But we know that it's an important part of creating a well-rounded camp experience. So if there were moments where a child was reflecting on the conversation they had earlier that day, or they were thinking about a cabin chat in the evening and processing some of the conversations they were having with the counselor, we have professional staff, professional volunteers on hand who have legitimate backgrounds in social work and nursing who can help step in and assist in those conversations. But the first few days are primarily focused on fun and community building. It's doing the classic tie-dye and friendship bracelets and getting to know you activities. It's choosing a Kesem name if you haven't yet had a name picked out coming into the camp experience. That's something that's kind of right up front for kids to be able to give them the opportunity, like I said, to choose that identity that they resonate with so that they can live out their camp experience in the way that feels most authentic to them. And then what we do is through camp, we layer on different programs and activities that are going to just create space for a little bit more vulnerability for children. So whether that's through our empowerment activity, which I would say is one of our signature activities at camp, it's really our chance to give kids the space to find the language and find the confidence to be able to actually talk through what has cancer meant for their family. It's not something that is forced upon any child. It's something where we create space for kids to be amongst all of their peers within the same age group. And everyone has a chance to write down a thought. And if they so choose, share that with the group at large. And then once everyone's had a chance to share, we go around amongst all of the campers of those age groups and just kind of give them continued space to process and respond and ask questions and share the things that come to mind. I had a chance to spend almost a full week at a camp last summer and was able to sit in on an empowerment activity and to witness children of all different age groups and seeing kids who are 7, 8, 9 years old who are sharing what loss meant to them and what was it like to see a parent go through treatment or ask questions to their peers as they're actively going through it at this moment. And then see those kids step up and walk across the circle and comfort one another and share laughs in that moment. Like we're talking about this duality of joy and sorrow, it plays out in those moments like empowerment where they have that chance to step up and share what's meaningful to them in that moment. And for some kids, that's a lot. And for other children, that's taking a back seat and absorbing the conversation and processing that later on. And that's completely fair. The core of camp is to just create the space for kids to feel it as it comes to them and express what feels natural. That continues on day after day and giving them the chance to continue to just have fun and let loose and be a kid. And by the end of camp, have the chance to sign each other's shirts and stay in touch while still being able to have experienced some of that vulnerability with the hope that when they're going home, and this proves out in a lot of the feedback that we get from families, oftentimes kids are going home and sometimes for the first time being able to have a conversation with a parent or a caregiver about the impact cancer has had on them or the family. It's just a space where kids we're finding are building competence and confidence in themselves and their voice so that when they're going home, they know more, they feel a little bit more comfortable, and they have that whole greater community of other kids that they've now gotten to engage with to rely on as a peer network.
That's really incredible. And what stands out to me most is the normalcy of that entire experience, like the friendship
Yes.
bracelets, the tie-dye shirts, because when you have a family with a lot of medical complexities, you feel like the other in so many situations. And probably a lot of kids in your class aren't going through the same thing. So to not only be in a space where other people are going through something similar, but to also just feel like a normal kid is spectacular. I love that.
For kids, just the chance to be around their peers and not have to think about what brought them there after just talking about how we do kind of bring children together around that topic. It's just special, nuanced environment where being able to tackle the topics at hand through this lighthearted, carefree sort of way, not to make light of cancer, because it's the last thing any of us want to do. But to acknowledge that cancer can't and shouldn't define anyone, especially as a child. You're still wrapping your head around what does it mean for me and what does it mean for my family to be around other kids just playing and laughing and having fun and experiencing that joy. It's unmatched, the impact it's having on kids.
It sounds so similar to Inheritance of Hope's legacy retreats, where in a weekend, you can go to a water park, you can do the roller coasters, you can have fun and be a kid, and also talk about what mom's cancer is like or dad having ALS, how that impacts you. And to me, what you're explaining and what we see at legacy retreats is this integration of a person where it doesn't have to be all these different categories. It is both and it all fits inside of you. And you can express that fully in the same weekend at the same camp with other people navigating what that looks like for them.
Yeah, that is truly the perfect way to put it. And things hit different individuals at different moments. Some children really value the opportunity to just let loose and have fun and not take time necessarily within the group to share their worries or their fears. And other children, you can tell they count on that space. They know that when they're at camp year after year and they're around their peers that they trust because they know that they have had that shared experience, like these are my people. I can be honest, I can be open, and that leads to them being open and honest and vulnerable with other friends at school or with their family members. But for the kids, all that matters is that when they're around their peers at camp, they know I can trust you and I can have fun with you. Those are not two exclusive concepts. They can actually work hand in hand, and it's important for them to work hand in hand.
What are some of the requirements for people to attend Camp Kesem as far as age? Do you only get to go once? What diagnosis needs to be in the family? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, all great questions. So I mentioned we serve children who have been impacted by a parent's cancer, and that is primarily between the ages of 6 to 18. So children who are currently between 6 years old and 18 years old are eligible for camp. That could be at any point in their parent's cancer journey. So they may have been 2 years old when a parent was originally diagnosed and went through treatment, but now they're 6 and they're eligible for camp. That doesn't change. They can still take part in camp, and they could take part in camp or any of our Kesem programs for the next 12 years. So once a child is eligible, they are eligible throughout the entirety of that age bracket, and there is no limit to programs. We love when kids want to come back and families want to engage. We have almost a 99% retention rate on families who want to continue to come back year after year. I was just talking to a family out in Maryland recently who has basically planned their summers around Kesem. And that's not to pat ourselves on the back. I just want to show the highlight that families want to take the time to carve out space for the community and for kids, knowing that they're looking forward to it year after year. So we don't want children to see it or families to see it as a one-time opportunity. Although if families participate for 1 year and love it, or find that maybe another program fits their needs a little bit better, by all means, we want families to take part in the programs that fit most appropriately. But we find that families will want to continue to engage year after year. And not only that, but we'll have children who will run the whole gamut of camp, and then we'll be looking at colleges based on which colleges offer chapters as volunteers and then
Wow.
continue to go down that path. We have some campers who spent almost all 12 years as a camper and then became a volunteer at a college, became a counselor, became a camp director because Kesem has just meant a lot to them and their family, and they've wanted to continue to give back. And we know that that isn't the journey for everybody, but there are tons of individuals throughout the Kesem network that have had that sort of special experience. And that's what drives us to keep creating that year after year.
Yeah, that's an incredibly successful metric to look at is who's coming back and how much are people loving it that they just want to be involved more. Are there any costs or barriers that people should be aware of for Camp Kesem?
No, all Kesem programs are free. So unequivocally, it is a free program. Camp is free, our day programs, and we also run monthly virtual online programs for kids of all ages, and that is also free. So none of our programs have any costs associated with them. And I would also add that a camp, we know that along with going to camp comes various needs, right? It may be some other clothes, or if maybe there's shoes that family doesn't want to get messy. We actually have needs-based assistance built into our programs as well. So if families have specific needs, I highlighted clothing, although that's just one of a need that family might encounter. During a registration process, a family can make it clear if they have any needs that they would require needs-based assistance with. We have a budget that's allocated towards that at every single chapter across the country, because we know that trying to eliminate barriers for families is one of the most important things that we can possibly do. Building the awareness, making it seem fun, making it clear what the value is one piece of the equation, but actually making it practical for families to be able to engage in the program, whether that's transportation assistance. Some chapters run buses, some offer gas cards across the board. We assist families with supply assistance. So just trying to do anything in our power to make it possible for families to be able to engage. So they are free, and we offer that additional level of assistance to try to make sure that there's nothing that would hold a family back from taking part in our programs if that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, that's great to know. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I know you mentioned that Camp Kesem is the flagship program. What are some of the other services that Kesem offers?
Yeah, within the last few years, this is something we're really excited about. We launched a day program model called Kesem Together. And that's really just Kesem's way of partnering with other organizations like Inheritance of Hope to bring Kesem's value-centered kids programming to all sorts of different spaces across the country. So if families are familiar with Kesem, they may also see us showing up at a Gilda's Club in the area, or possibly another hospital partner. So we have done a lot internally to create some additional support so that we can show up in these various spaces across the country, because we know that as much as Camp Kesem has been the flagship program for Kesem over the years, not only is camp not a perfect fit for every single family, but sometimes based on proximity, it's just not possible for a family to take part in camp during a given year. So we are trying to create more and more opportunities to bring that programming to all sorts of various communities and more diverse communities. So we do those collaboratively with all of those partners across the country. And then, as I mentioned, Club Kesem is our virtual offering, and we run Club Kesem programs monthly online for different age groups. And one other program I'll just highlight, because I think it's special for us and I think it's special for families to know, anyone who might be listening, we run a program called Kesem By Your Side, which has historically been wrapped into the camp program, although we are doing more as of late to bring it into the light on its own. But it's really our way to create personalized custom support for families beyond the camp environment. One of the most special things that we do, and the most touching stories that I hear from families, are often Kesem By Your Side moments where Kesem counselors, through connecting with a family, will show up at graduations and proms, or if a family receives difficult news and the child needs additional support. I talked to a family recently where a mom was highlighting what some of the chapter volunteers had done in terms of creating a jar of messages, and all of the messages in that jar were all of the things that the counselors from that chapter loved about that mom's daughter. And it was a
Mm,
chance for her to be able to just go back to that anytime she was having a tough moment and just tap back into those experiences with the counselors. And there are countless examples of those all across the country every single year. And it's something that it's near impossible to shine a light on each and every one of those moments. But it's something that, as a member of the Kesem staff community, I'm so proud of, because we're talking about volunteers who span the gamut of experience in working with of difficult situations and having tough conversations, and yet they are there to show up for families no matter what, right? And they're there to respect boundaries and develop appropriate relationships. But when a family is really in need, our community steps up to the table and makes sure that that family knows that there's people that are out there looking out for them. right? It's not a hidden community. We're here and we're real and we're here to make sure that families know that someone has your back.
I love that idea of it's not a hidden community. It's up close and personal and accessible as people need it.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
shows up in different ways. And not every family might need that level of support. And those that do, we want to make sure that there's an avenue for that. That's something that I think moving forward will continue to shine an even brighter light on and continue to find ways to make it clear to families that if you're having those moments, if that additional layer of support is something that's critical for you or would really make a difference in your experience or your child's experience, we want to make sure that that pathway to getting that support is as clear as possible for families.
And for those families who are listening to this and think, I need this, I want this, what is the best way to take those next steps to get connected with Kesem?
Yeah, so a few different pathways. I mean, simplest upfront is by visiting our website. So kesem.org, which is kesem.org. It is a simple, straightforward way to learn about our programs, whether that's a camp program, some of the other programs I've mentioned, a very easy to digest breakdown of what a camp experience looks like. But probably more important for families, we actually have just recently launched a new program finder tool on our website. So if you were to visit our website and drop down to the tab for finding a program, you'll find this brand new tool for families to be able to plug in their zip code and then filter by a few different experiences. So if a family is looking possibly to identify, what college chapters are actually around me, you could put in your zip code and filter it by however many miles feels appropriate to you and see all of the different Kesem chapters that are within your region with designated contact information in case you wanted to reach out to that chapter in your area with additional questions that are specific to you and your family's needs. Or you could filter it by the actual camp experiences or programmatic experiences. So if you weren't looking for a chapter, but you wanted to know where is the actual campsite where the camps are being held, you could filter it that way as well. So the very best, most direct way for families to actually look for some of the program information, visit the website. You could select any of the topic areas, use the program finder. But if you wanted to make it as easy and hands-off as possible, at the top of our website, you can either follow links directly to registration, if that was something you felt ready for, or submitting an interest form. So we leave an option for families to just submit general interest. Say, I've learned about Kesem perhaps through this podcast, and it sparked my interest, but I don't quite feel ready to make a commitment, but I'd love to learn more. And that'll instantly put a family in the network of communication so that they can start to receive more information, learn about program opportunities, and then tap in whenever that feels like the right time for their family.
And we will link the website in general as well as that specific program finder in the show notes just so that you can do one click and get where you need to go. Thank you so much for sharing all about Kesem and the work that you're doing. It's really important. And I think a lot of Inheritance of Hope families would benefit from this and would be excited about this. So I loved getting to learn more. And thank you so much, Derek, for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Truly, the main takeaway for families from our point of view is that Kesem sees the whole family. We want it to be fun. We want it to be carefree. We don't want it to feel like pressure. We know that for families, having a program that's safe, that's trusted, that's vetted is critical in these times. We've been around for 25 years. We've served over 150,000 families, and we just want families to know that we're here for you in whichever way that that makes the most sense for you.
Well, that's incredible. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.